All right, gang, it is time to go gung ho, which is to say, all out, which is to say, you need to do a certain thing right now, and that is to harness the power of your television viewing to bond internally and externally with your internet monitor, with your telephonic device, with whatever it is that you use as a receptor for Tent Talks Tunes. That's right. It is here, it is now, it is live, it is wow. Keeping the spirit of cable TV all the way alive, baby, right here. With your host, little old me, Malcolm Tent, from the greater Danbury, Connecticut area, where I am here to report that it is positively biblical out here today. If any of you people are in the northeastern US of A, you know what I'm talking about. I see my main man, Mike Lesser from Vancouver, BC, is tuned in. Mike, will you please send an ambassador over to Quebec and tell them to quit this stuff? They're burning down the house, as the talking heads would say. I know they fancy themselves to be an independent nation of their own, but dude, and no need to get so hot under the collar. We are currently buried in a blanket of particulates in the atmosphere due to a certain wildfire problem they got up there in Quebec. It's weird, man. The sun was orange all day long, and you could pretty much you could look directly at the sun, and it looked more like the moon on like an orange full moon night. And, I woke up first thing in the morning and I smelled smoke. That's how severe it is. I don't know what it's like for you people out there who are not in the Northeast. If anybody wants to send in their own local weather report, but conditions in Connecticut, smoky and very weird. You can hear and you can see by the shaking of my backdrop that Harry the cat, who is not so camera shy anymore, and he hasn't been smoked out either. He seems to know, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong about this, but it seems like the last few times that I've gone on air live with Tent Talks Tunes, old Harry has jumped right up, and knocked a few things over, and made his presence known, and well, there he goes. Spooked himself, I guess. But yeah, it's like I go on air, and Harry, who was normally very camera shy and would only sit there on the sofa and not be noticed, all of a sudden he busts on in and expects to be seen on camera. I think he's definitely becoming a star. Let us raise a toast of Danbury Tap to the concept of stardom for Harry, the one-eared wonder. Yeah, it's definitely bizarre. Harry was spending the day out there on his catio, and he came inside, and I, picked him up and did the snuggly thing, and he smelled like smoke. That's how strange it is. Did I say biblical? Biblical. Let's see who's tuned in right now. We got Scott LaRock. Hello. We got James Pogo from the Arm Delight Rifles. We got Alan Versapellis. And we've got my very cheap, non-functioning mouse. Hello, Jesse Small, who always thought the two of the T's stood for Tent Ted Turner. No. None of my hands stand for Ted Turner, but my downturned thumb definitely does. Oh, the things that are going on in the world today. So yeah, let's talk about some stuff, shall we? Let's have our traditional introductory look at the bulletin board. And then we'll crack open ye old mailbox and see what awaits us. And then we will talk the tunes. Let's see. This is stuff I've talked about every week. Nothing too much has changed on the bulletin board, but these are still really amazing events. And in fact, they draw nearer and nearer, which means they get more and more exciting the closer we get to them. Number one on the calendar, the closest event, looking us dead in the face, June 22nd, 2023, Fear, with special guests, you guessed, Anti-Scene. Yes, the band that I proudly play the Thunder Lumber for. We are opening for Fear. And if any of you people are paying attention to things related to fear, Lee Ving posted a week or two ago about how there's some kind of unspecified health issue within the band, presumably with him, that may preclude them from doing a whole lot of touring in the future. He left it very vague and open-ended, but he definitely left open the possibility that there might not be as much touring after this year for fear. So if you want to catch them, and you want to go to the city of Hotlanta, which I will mention, last time I was there to play with Anti-Scene a couple months ago, I found a vegan breakfast joint that had the best faux scrambled egg sandwich I've ever had in my life. And I am looking forward to going back the day after our Gala Rock and Roll Extravaganza with Fear to have another one of them fake scrambled egg sandwiches. It was so good. They put fig jam on it. That was kind of the secret ingredient. Fig jam on a scrambled egg sandwich on an English muffin. All vegan. Man, that sucker was good. So I'm looking forward to a couple of big things. June 22nd, Atlanta at the Masquerade, when Anti-Scene, I'm going to say it, we're going to make it as hard as we possibly can for Fear to follow us. You know, when we play live, we like it when our opening bands make us work extra hard. We like that. So we figure it's a favor that we want to return to the bands that we open up for. We're going to make them work a little bit. So notice has been served. What else is coming up? Well, after that, September 22nd and September 23rd, not only is September 23rd my birthday, but September 22nd and 23rd is the upcoming devotional Devo fan gathering at the Beachland Ballroom in Cleveland, Ohio. I will be there in attendance with a special event-only vinyl LP. I've teased it a little bit in the past. I tease it more now, except I don't have one to show you. Let's just say I'll be there. It'll be there. DJ Lance Rock of Yo Gabba Gabba will be there, along with many, many other special guests relating to Devo and things Devo to be announced. September 22nd, September 23rd. The week after that, just to show you that I never slow down and there are no flies anywhere on me, at the Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Anti-Scene's 40th anniversary show, for which, according to the venue, tickets are selling very robustly. I don't like to predict the future, but the word sellout has been mentioned in conversation relating to this show. So you might not want to sleep on this if you want to catch the Kings of Destructo Rock in their 40th anniversary performance with special guests Sweet Georgia Brown and Joe Buck Yourself. I have attended as a fan and a consumer Anti-Scene's 10th, 30th, and 35th. And even as recently as the 35th, I never dreamed that I would be playing on the stage for the 40th. So that, my friends, is super beaucoup bodacious. And we got a lot in store for you on September 30th. Be prepared for a marathon. A 40-year marathon of Destructo Rock. And heck, why slow down after that? You know, after September 30th, you've got October 21st. The Danbury Record CD Expo taking place at the VFW Hall number 149 in Danbury. It's a record show, a room full of record dealers. I co-promote it. Enough said. And least we forget, we got Profanatica on tour. I will be playing bass for Profanatica between the dates. Let me make sure I get these dates right. I think I'd have them memorized by now, right? September 13th in Cleveland, Ohio is where we begin. August 6th in Raleigh, North Carolina is where we end. And there are only 2 days off in between, and those are both travel days. We're going to be somewhere out in the west, driving for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours across the desert to get from point A to point B. We only take days off to travel. So yeah, Profanatica, Cleveland, Columbus, Chicago, Minneapolis, Omaha, Denver, Salt Lake City, Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Phoenix, El Paso, Houston, Austin, Dallas, St. Louis, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Atlanta, GA, there's that city again, and Raleigh, North Carolina. Another event for you not to miss. And I'll mention too, I always talk about my Discogs and eBay and Bandcamp. I've been listing stuff like a fiend on Discogs these past few days. You've heard me gripe and moan before about my critical storage situation here in my little cabin in the woods. Too many records, not enough space. Well, I'm being proactive about it, and I am listing tons of stuff for sale. As I mentioned before, since I'm not doing radio anymore, there's a lot of records that I was using specifically for radio play, and I just don't need the records anymore. I've got all of my old radio shows archived. I record every single one of them. And so if I ever do want to hear, an early UFO track, for example, and there's only one good song on the album that I played, I don't need to have the album for just one song. I can go through the archive and listen to the show that I played it on. Yes, I've become one of those. Normally I would keep the record, but I just ain't got the room no more. So the records are going, they're going, I want them gone. Check my Discogs store, look for TPOS / Trash American Style. And James Pogo knows he spotted a couple already that he wants to buy. So thank you, James. Do appreciate that. Your purchase has freed up 1/8 of an inch of shelf space in my home. And believe me, every 1/8 of an inch counts. Better in your home than in mine. A toast to freeing up space. Greg Crawford said yes, the full kitchen. It's intolerable. Oy. All right, that's the bulletin board. Let's do a quick check in the mailbox here. You saw at the very beginning of the show, as is my custom, I flashed the email. Listen to me, I sound like a millennial. The email, the what? The mailing address, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. Let's see what we got. We got 2 exciting pieces of mail. I'm going to grab the million-mile scissors here and go chop chop on this padded envelope here in my wonderful musical padded cell. This is a cold opening. This is from my pal Alan Versapellis, who I gave a little name check to before. Alan is kind of like me. He's a weird-ass rock and roller. He does music. He releases it on various formats, and by the feel of this thing, it's got to be a compact disc. Does anybody out there remember compact discs? Remember CDs, anybody? They were going to make vinyl obsolete. Remember them? Well, they're still around. They are still around. And I've come to embrace CDs. As anybody who used to shop at my store, Trash American Style, would know, that for many years, starting in the late 80s, I was waging a one-man war against CDs. Absolutely hated them. Because they were overpriced, they were forced on the marketplace, they were just a tool of absolute greed by the major labels. But now that CDs have become what they were always meant to be, which is an affordable, borderline disposable physical medium, I love them. I love them. I've even been releasing CDs on TPOS, which I guess I might as well shill a couple of them since I'm down to my last copy. Check this out, guys. Last copy ever of G.G. Allen and the Scumfucks Suicide Rehearsal CD. I made 100 of them. This is copy number 96. This is the last one. But I love this, that's got the packaging, it's professionally printed CD, lots of room for liner notes, cost effective, quick turnaround. Mad Brother Ward, you're going to get a sense of deja vu in a minute. On CD, it's possible to make these things now. So I've all of a sudden become bullish on CDs, which is why I happily opened this envelope from Alan Versapellis. See what kind of CD he sent me. This would not be the first. Ah, yes, the band related to Alan Versapellis, Jello Swayze. Jello Swayze. I don't know what's going on over this. I can tell right now, track 1 on the disc, the great VD is for Everybody, a version of an old public service announcement song. That's on one of his other albums, and that was like one of the best things I've ever heard in my entire life. So already, I'm excited to hear that. And with song titles like Why Do You Smell So Bad, Angel of the Bottomless Pit, it's got to be good. So Jello Swayze right here. Thank you, Alan. Really appreciate it. You're watching right now if you feel like, oh, what's this? Hey, check it out. This fell out of the envelope. An honest-to-gosh Jello Swayze pin. And if you guys like instant results, check this out. You want action? I'm a man of action. Now, whenever I go to the grocery store, or the hardware store, or the dog fights, or wherever it is there is to go out here, people will see Jello Swayze, baby. It's right there. So thank you. Thank you, Alan. And if you have any links to your stuff, please post them, because I think the people deserve to know. Now here's the thing. We got the utility knife. And this is a big open appeal to all you people out there who might be able to help an old man. Okay, you can see this utility knife, standard utility knife, functions very well, right? Blade goes up and out, blade goes in and down by pushing the handy lever. Okay, why is it? Why is it that when I try to change the blade in one of these things, and this has happened to me numerous times, I go to change the blade, right? You unscrew the top. You carefully remove the top. You turn the blade around. And then you take the top and put it very carefully back on. And it will not screw in correctly. It will not snap together perfectly like this. It just won't. It's a simple construct. It's not like you're trying to build a, I don't know, what are you going to try to build? It's not like you're trying to build a car engine from scratch. It's just a two-piece utility knife, and the Verschluggener thing won't screw back for love, money, or fear of damnation. Why is that? Can anybody tell me why? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with this? How come I can't screw them back? The only reason this thing works so perfectly is because I've never tried to change the blade in it. Why? Why? What am I doing wrong? Is there a clinic somewhere? Is there a YouTube tutorial on how to put together a damn utility knife? What am I missing? Is it because I'm a Gen Xer? What is it? Somebody, please give me help. It's one thing. Notice I started ranting? It's one thing to not be able to recover a lost YouTube channel, which mysteriously disappears for no reason whatsoever, and YouTube's so-called customer support is of value. That's one thing. That's digital internet jive turkey. This is a tangible physical object that I said before is very simply put together. It's designed so that anybody can change a blade in it and screw it back together, but I can't. My inquiring mind wants to know. And maybe I just dehydrated it a little bit with that rage. So I'm going to get it all nice and damp again and get some of that water on my brain here. Gotta hose that thing down sometimes. All right. We got the utility knife. We got a box from Ruined Records in Wilmington, North Carolina. And this one, I'm pretty sure I know what's in here. This might be kind of after the fact because they just released something that sold out in a matter of hours, apparently, and that's pretty cool. And I know what it is, but I think it's worth showing to you people in this cold unboxing. Live unboxing. You see that box was sealed. Now it is open. Now we are opening it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll discard that. Nicely sandwiched between cardboard box fillers. We tossed one aside, and there it is. My former band compatriot and still longtime pal Mad Brother Ward did a thing with Ruined Records, and that was a limited edition hand-lathed record. Looks like about an 8-inch record to me. It's pretty cool because it features a live performance that not even I knew about from 2006. They made 50 of them. And there it is. Square, transparent, double-sided with a label. Really, really cool. Much obliged. Awesome. Thank you. And as a special bonus, and I had heard that people were getting these bonus records. I'll assemble that later. But yeah, check it out. Bonus LP by the DC Rippers. Or, sorry, the OC Rippers. I've heard OC Rippers stuff before, and it's pretty good. So, yes. Most great, awesome stuff coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. The OC Rippers and Mad Brother Ward. Fantastic. Mazel tov. Thank you so very much. All right, we have done the bulletin board. We've done the mailbox. What do you say we get into some tune talking? Today's topic is so vast that I could probably devote numerous episodes to it. And that, of course, is the fact that bass is the place. Yes, bass guitar has taken me far. It is my weapon of choice in my arsenal of musical destruction. If I was born to play any instrument at all, it's to play the bass guitar. The bass is what resonates with me. Excuse me. The bass is my preferred mode of expression. Yeah, I play guitar. I play a lot of guitar. And I can sit down behind the drums and tap out a little tattoo every now and again. I can sit down with a keyboard and go plink, plunk, plink, plunk, and come up with something. And it's all fun and it's all good. I love it. But bass guitar, baby. That is the one that floats my boat. And it must be genetic. It's got to be a genetic thing, because when I was growing up in Hialeah, Florida, there was only one instrument in the entire house, and it was a bass guitar. My father had a Fender knockoff bass that was always just kind of laying, it was propped up in a corner in the living room or sitting on the couch. I really, when I was a kid, I don't remember seeing him ever play the thing. Like later on, I would see him play it after after I picked it up and started playing in, a garage band, which I'll get to in a minute. He would pick it up and plunk around on it. But I don't remember ever seeing him play it when I was a little kid. It was just something that was always there. And I remember it very clearly, like when I was, we're talking about a little guy here, 1, 2, maybe 3 years old. I remember going up to this thing, and it was like, bigger than I was. It was taller than I was, about as wide as I was at least. It had the strings and weird, I guess you'd call psychedelic orange and black swirly design on the pickup guard. And it was like this really big thing. I really didn't know what it was, but it was just always there. And so, no brainer that when it came time to start my first high school band, which, I didn't start it. It was as many of the early musical endeavors I got into, it was the brainchild of Rick El Santo, Big Caesar Santo, Malia, as we called him. It was Rick's idea to start a band so we could play at the high school talent show. And it was just a case of everybody grabbing what was closest at hand. Rick didn't have any instruments, so he was the singer. What did I have? Well, there's this bass guitar. I'll just play this thing. Plunk, plunk, plunk. And our other friends, one guy had, 2 of the guys had guitars. And my little brother played the drums. Okay. Up to that point, he was the only one who had any kind of musical aptitude whatsoever as far as playing an instrument. He was the first one in our family to get started on musical instruments. And I just grabbed this bass guitar thing because it's just what was there. And sure enough, it hit the spot. It was just like so many other things in my life. It was pure serendipity. It was the right thing at the right time. And I was just, at that moment, ready for it. And there it was. And so it was quite the journey that had begun when the minute I picked that thing up and tried to somehow pick out God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols, because that was a song we played at the high school talent show. It's so far back, I don't remember if I learned it by playing along with the record. I think that I must have had somebody show it to me. That had to have been the way. because I wouldn't have even known what to do if somebody put on the record and said, okay, play along with it. I just would not have had a clue. I wouldn't have known how to tune it. I knew nothing about it. Zero. So it has to have been a case of where one of the dudes who had a guitar like tuned it up for me and said, okay, you put your finger here, you put your finger there, and you move it around like that, and that's how you play a song. Had to have been it. And I guess enough of that stuck with me so that when it came time to be in a bit more of a permanent band, I did have the real rudiments of playing a bass guitar. When I say rudiments, I mean rudiments. So the first band that I was ever in that had, more than one high school talent show under its belt was a garage combo called Hand of Doom. It was myself, my younger brother, and this guy Lonnie from the neighborhood. Lonnie played guitar. My brother played drums. They needed someone to play bass. And, well, I was in the house. The bass was in the house. Why not? And I already had at least enough proficiency on it to plunk out God Save the Queen, as crudely and badly as you would imagine. So, okay, you got this guy, he's got a bass guitar, but no skills. How do you teach him how to play these Black Sabbath songs? How do you get this guy in the groove? Well, very simple. You make sure he knows the rudiments, like this finger goes here and that finger goes there. And when you hit this fret, it's the same as that fret, and, just that kind of stuff. This note here is the same as that note there. I remember getting those lessons from Lonnie. He showed me the very, very basic fundamentals of what note was what and how to maneuver your way back and forth between one and the other. So I had that. And he said, now, if you want to learn these songs, take the first Black Sabbath record and the second Black Sabbath record and listen to it and play along with those records and just learn those songs. And that is where the journey really began. And that's where Tent Talks Tunes begins today in terms of my bass playing inspirations. I always use the word inspirations. I don't want to say influence, because I really honestly believe that, and I think this is true for everybody, or at least for a lot of people, it's certainly true for me. I never set out to try to play like so-and-so. I never wished I sounded like such and such. I always knew that I wanted to play what I wanted to play. There's always been the music in my mind, and it was always just a matter of actualizing it and getting it out. I just didn't know how to. I never knew how to. And so the first step in the journey was by taking these Black Sabbath records and learning how to play the songs along with them, which means that the master himself, Geezer Butler, was probably my first, in fact, he's my first and earliest bass inspiration. I was pleasantly surprised to find that Black Sabbath songs, at least on the surface, were very easy to play. That was a huge revelation, especially the first song, side one, first album, Black Sabbath. In essence, it's only 3 notes. Do, do, do. And 2 of them are the same. It's a high G, it's a low G and a high G, and then the one in the middle. All of a sudden, just by holding my fingers like this and moving just these 3 fingers, not even moving them, just pressing down the fret in this order, I'm playing Black Sabbath. Mind exploded. And it was just, from there on out, there was basically no stopping me. And it was the same, like in the song Paranoid. How many notes are there in Paranoid, really? The main riff is do 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 do. Okay, never mind the do 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 bit. It's 2 notes. I can master that. So Geezer Butler. You're going to talk about bass inspirations. Geezer Butler was the first. And of course, as time has gone on, and I've listened to a lot of Black Sabbath, I've come to realize just how brilliant his playing is. He can be complex when he wants to. He can be understated when he wants to. The guy knows the difference. And his playing is very melodic and very well put together. And as is so often the case with a lot of my heroes on the bass guitar that we're going to mention, completely underrated and dismissed by the rock and roll establishment. I guess because nobody in his management company wanted to buy an endorsement from Rolling Stone magazine. So Sabbath were always swept under the rug, basically. And that just kind of made me love them even more. So bass inspiration number one, Geezer Butler. And this is one of the few Black Sabbath records I still have. You know, in my business as a record seller, I've had to sell off so many records. No real regrets except when I want to go back and listen to them on vinyl. But Sabotage, my favorite Ozzy era Black Sabbath record. This is my favorite. This is my jam. When I want to hear some Ozzy era Black Sabbath, this is the one I go to first and foremost, and that's why this one is still in my collection after all these years. Geezer Butler on the bass. So, yes, that's the tenor of what we're going to talk about today. These are all, at least for the first part, bass players who I learned how to play with by playing along with them on record. Best technique in the universe. Now, this record right here, The Velvet Underground, I had the extreme pleasure of being acquainted with Mrs. Sterling Morrison for a while. Sterling Morrison being the rhythm guitar player of The Velvet Underground. Lovely lady. Got to hang out with her a pretty fair amount. She was an awesome woman. She let me borrow a book once, and I don't remember the name of the book, but there was a quote, a concept in this book that, even though this was like way, way later in the game, this is like maybe 10 years ago, concept in the book that fried my brain because it stated the obvious, and it was something I'd always been doing, but it said it point blank. It said, if you want to play music with the masters, all you got to do is put on one of their records. And you're playing along with the masters. Dude, you want to talk about simple wisdom? You can play along with the masters. And one of the masters that I played along with was another very underrated, unappreciated bass guitar player. And I'm not talking about John Cale. If you're a Velvet Underground fiend like I am, of course you automatically think John Cale. I'm talking about Doug Ewell. Yes, Doug Ewell, who was the bass player on the last two Velvet Underground records, last two studio albums, and of course the Live at Max's album, and a whole slew of unreleased tracks, 4 of which appear on this bootleg album that was a grail item when I was a young lad. I had a reel-to-reel tape of this album, and I would play bass along with the 4 proper Velvet Underground songs that are on this album, all from the Lost Fourth album. Foggy Notion, Temptation Inside Your Heart, I'm Sticking With You, and Ferryboat Bill. Foggy Notion especially, because that Doug Ewell bass line is simple, simple, simple. It was so simple even I could play it at the time. And it was just so inspiring because here they are, a legendary album, legendary band, so legendary that somebody can make a bootleg LP of them, and I'm playing this uber simple bass part. Simple equates to legendary. And Doug Ewell was the guy who laid down that simple, legendary bass part, especially on Foggy Notion. That was the first time I ever played anything that even resembled a fill. If you listen to the bass line on that song, you know what I'm talking about. This is really cool, do-do-do-do-do. So simple, 4-line, 4-note bass part that acted as a fill. Man, that's so cool. So inspiration number 2, Doug Ewell. Thank you, Doug Ewell. And hello, Jenny DeSoto out there in New Jersey. Good to have you on board. Now, John Murray, from the very fine Danbury. Should I say, is Danbury, is Missiles to Malta Danbury? Or are you guys Brookfield? We'll say Greater Danbury group, Missiles to Malta. Excellent band you should keep an eye out for. John Murray plays the drums for them. And he said, Mike Watt, Now, Mike Watt, I've got a whole category later of bass players who are phenomenal, mind-blowing musicians, but they don't influence me. Like, there is no way I could ever play like Mike Watt. It's my skills, my chops, my fingers just aren't wired that way. I cannot do those flurries of notes as effortlessly as he does. I couldn't even begin to remember how to play a full set of Minutemen songs, you know, or Firehose or Mike Watt for that matter. I mean, gee whiz. That guy is just beyond, his chops are beyond mine. So yeah, big, fat, mad props to Mike Watt. But yeah, I can't count him as an inspiration because I just go like this watching him play. And Missiles to Malta, Bethel. John Murray, if you're there, why don't you post a link to Missiles to Malta so that people can check you guys out. Because I've seen them live and I all vouch for the fact that they are a good band. I think going chronologically here, we could say my third bass inspiration is contained in this very simply packaged album. Yes, we're talking about Peter Hook of Joy Division. Yes, indeedy do. Joy Division. This was the first Joy Division album I ever bought. And hearing, once again, simplicity, less is more, riff-o-rama. This was the first band I ever heard where the bass parts carried the entire song. And they were always very simple. I could play along with them without breaking a sweat, which is pretty major, you know. And it once again showed me that you've got this legendary band that has been written about and who people love. And the bass playing, very simple. Lessons being learned, kids. Lessons galore. So yes, Peter Hook from Joy Division. Big inspiration for yours truly. And I played along with this record a lot. Another record I played along with. Greg Lathrop says, like reggae music. Yes, indeed. Now, I'm not a reggae man per se. I like a lot of reggae. And I love the reggae bass sound. And yeah, you want to talk about simple is best. That doon, doon, doo 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 doo, that universal dub bass line. How many notes is that? 3? Maybe 4? And you've built an entire industry on that. And of course, the sound of reggae bass players, those low, low notes that they hit. Huge, huge with a band who I am not going to talk about today, although I could very well, the original Public Image Limited with Jah Wobble on bass. And Wobble deliberately emulated the sound of reggae bass players by getting that rich, deep tone and playing on old, dead strings. Like, he studied this stuff. And the result, especially if you play Second Edition, a.k.a. Metal Box by Public Image Limited, just listen to the bass on that. It's reggae style. It's the sound of reggae bass played in a really damaged, fractured way. And that's a record, that's another one that's never left my personal collection. I can go into the next room right now in the library and pluck out my copy of Second Edition by Public Image Limited. Put on Albatross and just feel the walls shake with that bass. Oh boy. But I never played along with a Public Image Limited record. I did play along a lot with this one right here, kids. Slip It In by Black Flag. I also played along a lot with Damaged. So I honed my bass playing chops with both Chuck Dukowski and Kira Rossler. Radically different styles. Dukowski was much more animalistic. He was a lot wilder. His tone's more overdriven, which is probably why he got thrown out of Black Flag, because Greg Ginn wanted machine-accurate, jackhammer, on the beat, all the time, rhythms like a machine. And Kira has said in interviews that she tried to play that way because that's what he wanted. Whether or not that was actually her style, and I don't think it was, because if you listen to Dose Basses, which is the group she had with Mike Watt, she doesn't play like that at all. Or at least not all the time. Her style's a lot more fluid in Dose, but in Black Flag, it was like on the beat, square, all the time, bam, 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 which is great for a guy learning how to play. So I could play along with Damaged and get that wild animalistic feel, and I could play along with Slip It In and get the precision and the cleanliness and the accuracy. So chronologically, you've got two who really, really provided a key for me. Chuck Dukowski and Kira Rossler. Good stuff. Now, I mentioned earlier about Joy Division and how the bass line carried the song. You are not going to find a better example of that hardly anywhere than with Flipper. And Flipper, like Black Flag, although under different circumstances, two different bass players, each one as mind-blowingly phenomenal as the other. At the same time, in the same band, they had Will Shatter and Bruce. He was Bruce Lose. Now he's Bruce Luce. Will Shatter and Bruce Luce. They would trade off playing bass and singing lead in Flipper. And each one of them wrote the most simple, the most effective, the most gut-wrenching bass lines you've ever heard. Will Shatter wrote more of them than Bruce Lose did, but the ones that Bruce wrote, he wrote Sex Bomb. That's the Sex Bomb bass line. I'm pretty sure he wrote that one. Timeless, immortal, that song, that bass line will be played forever until the sun goes supernova. Whenever I get together with my old compatriots in Broken Talent, which is not very often, like once every 30 years or so, Sex Bomb is going to be played. That's just the way it is. Flipper, Bruce Luce, and Will Shatter. Flipper have had other bass players since then, but that was the team supreme. Now, you guys know that I'm pretty good at the heretical statement. I make a lot of heretical statements. It's part of my stock in trade. Let's see, Clinton Zilla's chiming in. He says, Simon Gallup from The Cure. Yeah, you know, this is a true fact. I never really got into The Cure that much. Just because, I don't know why, they never really registered on my radar that much. It's like everything that I've heard by The Cure I pretty much like. But for some reason, I never felt the need to pursue them. I don't know why. Now, Susie and the Banshees, on the other hand, I actually just kind of forgot about them now. Steve Severin from Susie and the Banshees. Now, that guy is a beast on the bass. With the same deal. Simple, effective bass lines with I don't know what kind of effects he uses. Sounds like maybe a phaser or something, a harmonizer. I'm not really sure, but great sound and just pow, sock it to you. Fantastic melodic, very melodic, simple bass lines. And never played along with Susie records, though. For whatever reason, I just never did. But yeah, I'll definitely do it right now. A sip of Danbury Tap to Steve Severin and Susie and the Banshees. Anyway, back to the heretical statements. Okay, are you guys ready for heretical statement? One band I've probably played along with this band. I've probably played along with them more than any other. I have played along with this band so much. I think I really, if you're going to talk about playing along with records and honing your chops, this band, more than any other, is my go-to for honing my chops. And the reason being, I'll say it one more time, heretical statement, pure heresy to say this, but I'm going to say it, is that I think I play the bass lines better than they are played on these records. One man's opinion. Just saying, guys. But the way that I hear these songs played on the bass is different from the way that they are played on vinyl. And so when I plunk a record by Husker Du on the turntable, I play those songs the way that I think they should be played on bass. And that is, of course, no disrespect whatsoever to Greg Norton. I mean, let's face it, you got to be a heavyweight if you're going to be in Husker Du. And I met the guy once. He's a super cool dude. And he was playing in a band called Gang Font. And I would suspect that Greg Norton would probably agree with me when I say this. His playing in gang font was far improved over his playing with Husker Du. Like, he had a lot more fluidity to him, a lot less plunk and thunk, and, you know, his chops were just like right on with gang font. And that's why I could never really resonate with his bass playing with Husker Du. It was just plunk and thunk. It was all attack. It's just attack, attack, attack. And the way that I hear the songs on bass is way more fluid, a lot more flowing, a lot more fluidity, and with less of a clean sound, more of a dirty sound. So when I put on either New Day Rising or Flip Your Wig or Zen Arcade or Warehouse or the 4 good songs on Candy Apple Grey, I play along with them, just weaving my parts into Grant Hart and Bob Mould's playing, and come up with the, why couldn't I have been the bass player for Husker Du? You know, one of those deals. But it gets back to what I was saying earlier. You can play with the masters anytime you want. Just put the record on. Even in times when I'm not feeling particularly inspired to play my own stuff, but I want to play something, it is a no-brainer to put on a Husker Du record and play along with it. And I can get into the groove with that immediately. Very easy. So yes, Greg, love you. I really want to see your brand new band Porcupine, which I've heard many good things about. Come east. Brave the smoke. Come out and see us so I can see you play bass now, man. I'm into that. Really dug the gang fun. I want to see that. And even that was, God, 16 years ago? Gee whiz. I want to hear you playing now, man. I'm into it. Blow me away. Blow me away. So those are the records I basically played along with. We got plenty of honorable mentions. Kind of like what I was saying earlier about The Cure or Mike Watt or Simon Gallup. Really awesome players, but who I never actually played along with, but whose styles I just really love. But first, we have a random sighting of the Captain and Tennille. This is a thing of mine. If you're of my generation, you know. And this has nothing to do with bass playing at all whatsoever. I also have not 1, not 2, but 3 brand new releases, exciting new releases on the TPOS label, full-length LPs of Profanautica, Aleister Crowley, and G.G. Allen. Yes, get them now on eBay and or Discogs. I try not to make Tent Talks Tunes into too much of an infomercial. I try to give you more info than mercial. But the reality is, I got bills to pay, and if you guys want to get some quality product and help me keep doing Tent Talks Tunes, buy these albums, because they kick butt. I would not have released them if they didn't kick butt. And I'm sure a few of you out there can vouch for that. Give me the amen. Give me the amen. Now, I'm seeing some corrections here. Okay, Scott LaRock says that Greg Norton is now an Ultra Bomb. Okay, Porcupine was the last Greg Norton band I knew of, so Ultra Bomb. Scott LaRock, can you post a link to Ultra Bomb? Because I want to check that out. John Murray says Danny Partridge. Danny Partridge is definitely kind of like Mike Watt. He is so far above and beyond what any of us can hope to be as mere mortals that it's just not really, there's just no sense. There's just no sense to even try to go there, because it's just, it wasn't meant to be on this plane of reality. The Danny Partridge bass bestiality just wasn't meant to be. However, Stephen Hanley of The Fall, yes. I never played along the Fall records, but man, this guy is a monster on the bass. Once again, simple, effective, catchy as hell. Nothing but hooks. The bass lines carry the music. The bass lines basically are the song, you know. Stephen Hanley. In later versions of The Fall, totally imitated, but never really quite duplicated. That's the real shiz right there. You might kind of find this to be a little bit disingenuous, but I never actually played along with Ramones records. If I was going to play along with a Ramones record, it was playing guitar. Whenever I was learning how to play guitar, especially using the bar, like not even bar chord, but power chord technique. Just put on a Ramones record and play along with a Ramones record. And when I did that, I would usually play along with Too Tough to Die or Subterranean Jungle. Because I don't know, for whatever reason, those just had the easiest songs to play along with. I don't know why. I think Rocket to Russia was so perfectly produced that I was just kind of daunted. I didn't want to try to even sound like this because I knew I couldn't do it. But those later records I could. But yeah, Dee Dee Ramone. Simple, but effective. What more can I tell you? If you can play along with a Ramones album, you can play along with anything. Someone who I didn't get into later in life, who I never really paid much attention to until I saw a live DVD of them from 1978. And I got to see Bill Wyman in full live performance at the absolute peak of his powers on the Some Girls tour. That's what really made me realize what a unique and downright weird bass player he is, at least at this time. I think everything that he did, and I've said this before about the Stones, everything about the Stones led up to and crystallized on this album. And Jeff Clayton talked about this yesterday on Break On Through. And of course, I've got to give a big shout out to Jeff Clayton because he did his top 10 list of his favorite rock and roll bass players yesterday and his 10 favorite rock and roll guitar players. And that's what triggered me to do this. So salute, boss. And he talked about also guitar teams. Like you've got bands with two guitarists and it sounds like one. They mesh so perfectly. The Stones, in my opinion, never really got that until Ron Wood joined the band. And by that time, Charlie Watts had totally zeroed in on his minimalist style, and Wyman was playing at his weirdest, and it all clicked on this one album. And the live DVD that's come out officially, I forget the name of it, the live DVD from 1978 on the Some Girls tour, breathtaking on every front. And by watching Bill Wyman play that bass with two broken fingers, no less, I just said, yes, Bill Wyman. Yes, Bill Wyman. And a true fun fact, I actually got thrown out of a band once here in Danbury for emulating some of that Bill Wyman style with his swoops and his dives and his glissandos, if you will. They said my playing, too weird. Bill Wyman. Let's see, we got some names here. Yeah, Jean-Jacques Brunel from the Stranglers. Kind of the same deal, man. I'm not the world's hugest Stranglers fan, but you got to admit, that guy can thump the thunder lumba. And his sound is massive. Oh boy, there's only one Stranglers album that I really, really, really like, and that's The Gospel According to Men in Black. That's my go-to Stranglers album, and for the longest time, that was the only Stranglers album I actually owned. But about 2-3 years ago, at a yard sale right here in my own neighborhood, I bought a copy of The Raven by the Stranglers for 50 cents. Took it home, played it, and was summarily blown away by that one. So I added The Raven to my collection. But some of the other albums I've heard, Black and White, Radis Norvegicus, I just didn't really didn't dig them as much. For some reason, The Raven and especially Men in Black are like pretty much all the Stranglers I need. But yeah, Jean-Jacques Brunel, wow, massive and monstrous. Kind of same deal with Clint Conley. Yes, Clint Conley of Volcano Suns. Am I getting that right? Mission of Burma. All those Boston bands, they tend to blur a little bit. Massive, massive sound. And, yeah, Chris Novoselic, Tony Lombardo. I mean, you could go on and on forever. There's just so many of them. A bass player who I think was also very underrated, even though he and his band had a pretty good degree of commercial success for about a minute or two. Big Country, Tony Butler. Holy smoke. There's nothing simple about this guy's playing. This guy is a one-man PhD course in bass guitar. Take any Big Country song, especially from the first era, the first 4 albums, and just listen to what this guy plays. And first of all, A, if you can even figure out what it is he's playing. B, if you can just... I'm rendered speechless. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Tony Butler of Big Country. And they had their little bubble of success here in the U.S. with their first album, and that's pretty much it for them here. They had a lot of success in Europe after that, but I don't think he's one of those bass players who ever really got his due. I could never even try to play like him. It's not my style, but I can listen to him play all day and all night. Same thing with John Entwistle. I know it's very obvious, but you got to admit, John Entwistle. Forget it. That guy plays more notes on one Who album than I've played in my entire career. And it's not the way I like to play, but I can listen to it for quite a while. Oh yes, I can listen to it for quite a while. Boy, the comments are coming in fast and thick. Yeah, whew. So many bass players. And of course, as Bob Dylan once said, we're going to bring it all back home with the bass player who first really unlocked the key, and which is what really made it completely fortuitous that dear old dad had a bass guitar just kind of laying around the house. I've told the story before, and if you go onto my YouTube channel, you will see many past episodes of Tent Talks Tunes archived. And on one of them I talk about the day that my uncle purchased my very own first rock and roll album. My very first rock album. And it actually wasn't the one I grabbed. I grabbed this one just because I thought better eye appeal. But if it was not for the earth-shaking, earth-quaking, breath-taking, tidal wave-making avalanche of sludge produced by this guy right here, Mel Shocker of Grand Funk. I used the term earlier, magic key. This was the magic key right here on the epical, monumental Grand Funk live album. If you look in my personal record collection, you will find Grand Funk live album. If you go into my car, you will find Grand Funk live album. If I'm driving around with somebody somewhere, and they've got like their Spotify or whatever, and we're all at kind of loose ends and just want to sort of hear something, and they say, hey, Tent, what do you want to hear? I say, Grand Funk live album. All I can say is, listen to that bass. Listen to that bass. Listen to this bass. Listen to the bass on Closer to Home. Listen to the bass on all of them. But especially those first 6 albums, I guess it was 6, maybe 5, albums by the original trio, when he was playing so loud, louder than God on a bad day. So loud, and I read this anecdote, I forget where, but somebody posted an anecdote from one of Mel Shocker's stage techs. Grand Funk used to use a brand of amp called West. They were made in Michigan, and they were tube-driven. Mel Shocker's bass tech had to stand behind the bass rig, and after every song, he would put on a pair of oven mitts and pull out the tubes because Mel Shocker was driving them so hard that they were on the verge of, complete failure. So he would have to put on oven mitts, yank out the tubes, and then put in a fresh set that were cool. And then repeat the process. Just switch the cooled down tubes for the overheated tubes, song after song. Man, that's what I call technique. And I don't aspire to play like Mel Shocker, but holy moly, I can just put on any of those original trio albums, turn the bass response up a little bit, and all of a sudden I'm 7 years old again, hearing Grand Funk live album for the first time, and hearing that bass guitar. And I didn't even know what a bass guitar was, but I heard that sound, and it vibrated me to my core, and that's what it still does to this very day. So there you go, Malcolm Tent's bass inspirations on Tent Talks Tunes. And I might have predicted this, but yet he's back. You want to try to say hi to the people again without knocking a bunch of stuff over and then running away? There he is. There's my guy. The infamous, ubiquitous Harry the Cat. What's going on, dude? Yep, you smell smoky, so you were outside, I can tell. But now he's here. Just in time for me to sign off. Look at this guy. What a hog. What an attention hog. He's not a cat, he's a hog. He loves that attention. My little one-eared wonder. Well, that is certainly a nice, cute, cuddly way to sign off, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and hearing me ruminate and masticate and prognosticate about bass guitar and the records I used to play along with and the ones that sort of helped make me the thunder lumber strummer that I am today. Catch me with Anti-Scene. Catch me with Profanatica. If those bands aren't doing anything, catch me with the Bloody Apostles, or maybe They Hate Us, or Ultra Bunny. I was born to play that thing, and I ain't going to stop. I was also born to talk tunes, and Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. I'll be back in about 167 hours. So until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent and Harry the Cat saying so long from the Nutmeg State.